I'm not too worried about people seeing the slides. I'd rather just be tight in on me, and hopefully that I can, I think, come in tighter a bit. Welcome. Small crowd, people will trickle in. That's what happens. So welcome to the City Bible Forum for our fifth talk in our In Beginning series called The Murder of Civilization and a Single Hope. Just to let you know, we've spooked this pretty hard, but coming up over the next, on this Thursday is our night Better Off Without Religion with Michael Jensen. He's a bloke from Sydney, don't hold that against him. Michael is a really thoughtful Christian thinker, a great analyser of culture, and has thought really hard about why is it that the West, as it were, has tuned out of Christianity, and is Jesus still relevant? So that's this Thursday night. Tickets still available, $25 for a single ticket or $2, 2 tickets for $40 for workers, or $10 for students, people under the pump with no income, so except for their phone bill. Right, I'm going to read out a chunk of Genesis 4, and we'll follow our normal format of I'll talk for about 20 minutes, and then we'll open up for questions from the floor, or comments, or observations, or challenges. This is from the 4th chapter in the Bible. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I've gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And again she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground. In the course of time Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry and his face fell. And the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry, and why is your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? If you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it. Cain spoke to Abel his brother. And when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel your brother? He said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? And the Lord said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground. Now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it shall no longer yield to you its strength. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and away from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. And the Lord said to Cain, not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. And Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Now, is there any account of humanity more compelling and yet more troubling than this one? 2 brothers who were raised in the same home together. They shared lives together as children, shared the same food, possibly even shared the same bedroom, shared the same toys. And then as men, on the new earth, they shared the work together. But then one says to the other, come with me out into the field, and he kills him. Murder. Cain broke that bond of brotherhood. And what you see really in this chapter, this part of the Bible, is really a story of murder, but it's also the story of civilization. But layered over the top of that is a story of God's incredible mercy. God's incredible mercy. So I'm going to take us through some elements of this story as we explore this story of civilization, story of murder, but also a story of mercy. Let me just draw out a few things that we notice straight away. Did you notice here that neither religion nor civilization nor families overcome evil? So we're picking up from the story of Genesis 3, where the fall of humanity and evils come into the world. And notice the context here. The first point, religion doesn't overcome evil. Look at sentences 3 and 4. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. It's religious worship here. They've gone to the altar, as it were, to honour God. It's in the middle of the church of thousands of years ago. And so right in the middle of that kind of worship, what happens? Well, Cain brings an offering, Abel brings one. And you can see there it says, God, the Lord, had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. Now it's very interesting there. Notice how God pursues Cain. God says to him, Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? I think that's the clue here as to what's going on. You're thinking, well, hang on, is it because Cain offered grain and Abel offered sheep? You know, God likes barbecue, but he doesn't like muesli? Well, maybe, but in other parts of the Old Testament, grain offering is legitimate. So what's going on here? I think it's hinted at with the firstborn. Abel offers the very first born of his flock, the first in trust he comes to God, whereas Cain just gets around to offering some of the fruit. But the glimpse is, if you do well, will you not be accepted? See, I think Cain is religious at this point. He thinks he could just come to God on his own terms and God will accept him. And when God doesn't, well, what happens? That next sentence. Sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever felt that when you've had a dark thought? You haven't done it maybe, but it is like it's crouched in your mind. And you know that if you consider it, or if you open the door to it, you'll be mastered by it. I think for a piece of text from thousands of years ago, I think that's a very poignant description of our wrestle with evil in our heart and mind, isn't it? Sin is crouching at the door, it desires to have you. So what happens? Well, Cain doesn't master evil, he's mastered by it. Cain spoke to his brother Abel, sentence 8. When they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Did he use a rock, a sharpened stick, his bare hands? We don't know. So Jesus gives a hint as to what's going on here at the end of Matthew. He says that Abel was a true worshipper of God and Cain hated him. The context is religion. Religion doesn't overcome evil. What else do we notice? Well, civilization doesn't overcome evil. What happens? Well, Cain goes away. And what does he go away? He goes away and he marries a woman. He went away from the presence of the Lord. Sentence 17, if you turn over the page, Cain knew his wife, she conceived and bore Enoch. And then he built a city. And he called the name of the city after his son, Enoch. And then there's more sons and more daughters and more wives. And eventually, you get the rise of civilization. You get these characters called Jubal and Jabal. It says, Lamech took 2 wives. The name of one was Ada, the other was Zillah. Ada bore Jabal. He was the father of those who live in tents and have livestock. His father's name was Jubal. He was the father of all those who play the lyre and the pipe. Zillah bore Tubal-Cain, and he was the forger of all instruments of bronze and iron. So civilization is progressing. There's cities, there's musical instruments, there's arts, there's poetry, there's literature. There's the forging of instruments, but also the forging of weapons. Because just after that you meet Lamech. I kind of picture Lamech as a neo-Nazi. Stripped bare on the chest, tats on his shoulders, shaven head, piercings. Listen to Lamech. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice. You wives of Lamech, listen to me. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain's revenge is 7-fold, then Lamech's is 77-fold. How would you like to be married to Lamech? So it plots the rise of civilization here, but also the rise of murder. It's terrible. So notice there he says, I killed a man for wounding me. Actually, the Hebrew text says, a child for striking me. A child struck him and he killed him. And then he uses Cain's line, if Cain is revenged by God 7-fold, then Lamech's is 77-fold. He's saying, my vengeance is greater than God's justice. We see here the rise of evil. See, Cain succumbed to sin. But what is Lamech like? He exalts in it. Cain sought protection. Lamech seeks provocation. He beats his chest. Bring it on! Bring it on, I'm Lamech. So civilization doesn't overcome evil. Also, what about families? We see that families don't overcome evil. I mean, families are good, right? They're something that, they're a great, they're an important part of the society. Blood is thicker than water, right? But families don't overcome evil. In 2009, an FBI report said 1 in 4 victims were slain by family members. We lift up families as something important and central, but they don't overcome evil. In fact, let me read you something a little more closer to home in case you think that's just America. We're always tempted to do that when it comes to the US. That's just America. It's different. This is from the newspaper last year. In Canberra last year, at a weekend game of sport between some under-12s, a 16-year-old ref gave an 11-year-old player a red card. Okay, this is under-12s, right? So the 11-year-old boys actually got into a little bit of a punch-up a bit later in the game, him and his opposite number that the red card was all over. So what happened then? Well, one father ran on the field to separate the two boys. Another father, I take it the father, thought that this father was, hurting his son. So what did he do? He ran on the field and calmly interjected and tried to sort this thing out. No, he shoulder charged the father. But everything calmed down. Oh no. Then other parents joined in. And not just the men. The article says handbags were swung. When there was the rematch, the club banned all spectators. This is under 12. But wait, that's not all. In August last year, that was in Canberra. I mean, it's down south, right? In August last year, in a Brisbane rugby league club, a police helicopter had to be called to end a fight because a brawl had broken out with 100... Oh, that's in Ipswich. Sorry. That police helicopter was called for the rugby league club. In Ipswich, 100 people, spectators, 100 spectators brawl happened, North Ipswich, and police used tasers and capsicum spray. And you know what it's called? What the sporting communities are calling this? Ugly parent syndrome. Lamech. A la Lamech. So, families don't overcome evil. In fact, they're overcome by evil. See, what we're seeing here in Genesis 4 is a broken social contract. A broken social contract. What is it that binds humanity together? Is it government? Is it the way society is organised? Is it families? Is it civilisation? Is it... Well, we'll come to what the answer is, because I just want to dig deeper into the broken social contract. See, look at God's question. Look at God's question to Cain in sentence 9. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is Abel, your brother?" This is just like that question that God asked Adam and Eve in the garden. Asked Adam, "Where are you?" It's a searching question. Cain, where is your brother that you grew up with? Where is your brother, the son of Adam and Eve, the son of your parents? Where is your brother? What have you done with him? And listen to the tone of Cain's reply. "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" He disavows any responsibility to Abel, whom he has killed. I just want to explore this with you, because can you imagine the difference in the world if we answered the question, "Am I my brother's keeper?" and every person answered the question, "Yes"? It would transform the world. Think about what's going on in Ukraine at the moment. See, what's happening there is, as I understand it, people are answering the question, "Am I my brother's keeper?" No. Actually, my commitment is to the Russian mother state, or Ukraine as a separatist society, over and above my commitment to other people. So therefore, I'm prepared to shoot them and kill them and blow them up. Because I'm not my brother's keeper. Actually, I owe responsibility to whatever it is, the ideology, the state. Can you imagine, think about Think about the pay rates for workers in China in those factories and sweatshops. If we answered the question, am I my brother's keeper, with a yes, would we need all these investigations and all this legislation for those awful, awful, horrendous work conditions? We wouldn't, would we? But humanity keeps being asked the question, am I my brother's keeper? And our answer is, am I responsible for my brother? Sometimes we do answer the question with, yes, I'm my brother's keeper, like the robbery gang, the surfing gang down in Maroubra, where the bra boys, where they have tattooed along their chest, am I my brother's keeper? And their answer is yes, but only my brother's keeper. Only him, against everyone else in society. I'll do anything for him, even hurt, kill, murder, steal from other people. The picture here is Tony Soprano, isn't it? Blood is thicker than water. He'd do anything for his family, even at cost to every other family, with their sons, their daughters. See, am I my brother's keeper? Humanity has constantly answered that question, no. Imagine what the world would be like if we answered it, yes. Because this is exactly what Jesus was thinking, when he said this in the New Testament. Jesus answered the greatest commandments of the Bible, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul and all your strength, with all your mind, and what? Your neighbour as yourself. Who's your neighbour? Anyone you come across. Anyone in your path, anyone you see in your work, your travel, where you live, where you shop, where you do business. Jesus is saying, should you be your brother's keeper? Yes. So what then holds society together? Well, actually, threaded through this story is a story of mercy. So you notice at the start, and I've got four big points here: God's multiplication of humanity, God's searching question, God's unyielding mercy to Cain, and God's plan of mercy. Do you notice the multiplication of humanity? We just take it for granted. But this is Adam and Eve, who've walked away from God, and yet he gives them 2 sons. And notice what Eve does. She says, I've gotten a man with the help of the Lord. It's kind of a prayer. She sees that this is God's goodness, that people who've walked away from God are still able to multiply. But we've touched on this already, God's searching question in 4:9. God wants Cain to come back to him. That's why he's asking it. That's why he's saying to Cain, where is your brother Abel? And that's part of the second kind of searching question. The Lord said to Cain, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. He's trying to say to Cain, you don't get it. You don't see what's at stake here. You've actually ruined the fabric of creation. Do you see that? Cursed are you from the ground, and it's opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood. You've ripped the very fabric of the earth that was supposed to serve you. That God's searching question there is he's trying to get Cain to see the consequences of what he's done. But then God is even merciful again in how he treats Cain going forward. He punishes Cain. He says, look, you shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, sentence 12. But see, Cain's taken a life. What did he deserve? To lose his life. And yet God lets him live. Why? So that Cain might turn back to him. Justice would have been that Cain died then and there. Mercy was that he lives. Eventually he will die. But mercy is that he lives so that he can turn back to God. But how does Cain respond? And God says, you'll be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. He's killed a man. He should lose his life. But how does he respond? Sentence 13. Listen to his language here. My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. Can you hear that? He's a murderer. And now he's afraid of death. And so preoccupied with himself. But God is incredibly merciful, because God says, "Not so, if anyone kills Cain, vengeance will be on him." And the Lord put a mark on Cain. What is that mark? Well, in the horror movies, it's the mark of the sign of the devil. Actually, in the original language, it's the same word for a covenant. God puts a mark of grace on Cain to protect him, on this murderer. But not only that, God says you have to be a fugitive and a wanderer. What does Cain do? Do you notice? He doesn't wander, he builds a city. He's not a fugitive, he has a civilization around him. And what does God do? Lets it continue in his mercy. See, because behind all this, God had a plan for mercy. And it's hinted there at the very last couple of sentences. See, Adam knew his wife again, sentence 25, and she bore a son and called his name Seth. For she said, "God has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him." To Seth also was born a son, and he came to his name Enosh. And at that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. See, that word offspring is crucial. That word offspring is crucial. Do you remember way back in Genesis chapter 3 that it talked about what would come? Someone from Eve, an offspring of Eve, would come and crush Satan. And so here, Adam and Eve have another child, and Eve gets it. She says, "Here's another offspring, which might bring me salvation." Come with me to the New Testament, all the way to Luke chapter 3, up on the PowerPoint slide. This is how Luke introduces Jesus. When Jesus began his ministry, he was about 30 years of age, being the son of Joseph, the son of Heli, the son of Mahat, the son of Levi, the son of Melchi, the son of Janai, the son of Joseph, and on and on and on and on it rolls until you get to what? Sentence 38, the son of Enos, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, the son of God. See, the Bible says Jesus is that offspring that came. And think about the death of Jesus. Think about the death of Jesus. Who did he die for explicitly? Who did he take the place of? Well, the wider Christian answer is everyone. But in particular, he died in place of Barabbas, a murderer. Pilate said, "Who would you like me to free for you this day when you get to have someone free?" He said, "Would you like me to release to you Barabbas, a murderer, an insurrectionist?" And they said, "No, no." I said, sorry. They said, "Would you like to release Jesus?" And they said, "No, release Barabbas." And so Jesus, as it were, actually took the place of Barabbas. See, Jesus' death on the cross, he died in place of a murderer. Why? Because down through the ages, humanity has shed each other's blood. We've broken the bond of brotherhood again and again and again. So Jesus came to die to fix that bond of brotherhood, to die for brothers and sisters of humanity. This has some huge implications. Because see, Jesus answered the question, "Am I my brother's keeper?" And he answered, "Yes, I am." Two big implications. Jesus died for murderers. That means whatever you've done, no matter how terrible, if Jesus' death could be in a place for murderers, for people just like Cain and Barabbas, then it can cover whatever you've done. See, the greatness of evil in our lives does matter. It matters so much that Jesus had to die, the Son of God, to fix the problem. But the greatness of the one who died is the greatness of the mercy, and it's greater than the things that we've done wrong. That's one implication. The second implication is this: if you call yourself Christian, have a listen to how this gets picked up, this challenge. If you call yourself Christian, you might not be, and that's okay, but if you are Christian, this is a challenge for Christians. John's first letter to Christian followers, he says this: "For this is the message that you heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. We should not be like Cain, who who was of the evil one and murdered his brother. He says a couple other things and then says, we know that we have passed out of death into life because we love the brothers. Whoever does not love abides in death. Whoever hates his brother is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life abiding in him. By this we know love, that he, Jesus, laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers. See, if you call yourself Christian, if we do that and yet still hate people, if we still hold hatred in our heart towards people, even people who've done wrong towards us, he's saying, you're not of God. You can't. By this we know love, that Jesus laid down his life for us, so what should we be like? Lay down our life for our brothers. Now he's talking about the Christian community, but I think the implication is he's saying, in Jesus the bond of brotherhood is being fixed. So how should you view the people around you? Just like Jesus did. With immense love and care. And never hatred. All right, let me pause there and open it up for questions and comments.
Speaking of